Hey guys, welcome to Tippecanoe and Tyler too. That's right guys, it's the election of 1840. It's time to send a Whig to the White House. William Henry Harrison, it's gonna be you, but then you're gonna die. Let's take a look at the campaign. Let's take a look at the election issues. Let's take a look at the electoral results. Let's take a look at the giddy up for the learning. All right guys, let's go get her done right now. So let's take a look at the Democratic Party first. And you have to remember that the Democratic Party is born out of kind of this common man concept under the banner of Andrew Jackson, who won in 1820 and 1832. His vice president, now president, is Martin Van Buren. And Martin Van Buren, he's a Democrat, but he's from the North. And he really is going to have a hard time in this election, especially conveying that he's a commoner, that he's one of the people. But it's not really going to be much of a fight for the nomination. Martin Van Buren is going to be the Democratic candidate. Now, his vice presidential candidate, he ain't gonna have one because he's gonna drop Richard Mentor Johnson like a hot potato. If you remember, Richard Mentor Johnson has a little shadiness in terms of his past for that day. He was married to one of his slaves who then died. He ended up marrying another slave. So he's gonna be dropped from the ticket, and like I said, we're not gonna have a vice presidential nominee for Martin Van Buren. And what's ironic, of course, about this is a little bit is that Richard Mentor Johnson was actually under William Henry Harrison's command in the Battle of Tippecanoe, and he's the one who killed Tecumseh, but I'm getting off track again. Now, the Whigs are going to do it differently than they did it in 1836. If you remember, in 1836, the electoral strategy was to divide and conquer, to kind of run sectional candidates and then go to the House of Representatives. And of course, that didn't work. They got their butts handed back to them. So this time they're going to coalesce around the leader in 1836, who's William Henry Harrison. Now, although William Henry Harrison's going to portray kind of a frontiersman, log cabin and cider kind of personality, he really is kind of an aristocrat. He was born in Virginia of a very wealthy family, a slave-owning family, but he is going to make his name known in the Battle of Tippecanoe, where he defeats the Shawnee and the Indian Confederation, Native American Confederation under Tecumseh. And of course, the legend is that Tecumseh cursed future presidents that were going to be elected in years ending in 0. And then, of course, William Henry Harrison, elected in 1840, is going to pass quickly 32 days after getting elected. We can go through that list. 1860 is Abraham Lincoln. 1880 is going to be James Garfield. 1900 is William McKinley. 1920 is Harding. 1940 is FDR. 1960 is JFK. And 1980, Ronald Reagan breaks the curse. I kind of fell into the weeds there, didn't I? But at the end of the day, they are going to nominate William Henry Harrison. Along for the ride, we're going to bring a Southerner, and that's going to be John Tyler, who ran as the vice presidential nominee for a couple of those Whigs back in 1836. John Tyler is actually kind of a states' rights Democrat, and he's going to cause a lot of problems for the Whigs when he ascends to the presidency after the death of William Henry Harrison. But I talk too much. We have our candidates. Martin Van Buren is the Democratic nominee, and now we have William Henry Harrison, Tippecanoe, and Tyler too. So before we talk about the actual campaign, there's a lot of campaigning that's going to go on from the Whig standpoint. They're going to run a negative campaign, really avoiding the issues of the national bank and the expansion of slavery, and focusing on how Martin Van Buren is an out-of-touch elitist, sort of running a campaign like Andrew Jackson ran. William Henry Harrison is a common man. He's a frontiersman. He's born in a log cabin. He drinks hard cider. He's one of you, where Martin Van Buren is kind of this guy who's really just out of touch. But the real issue is going to be the economy, and Bill Clinton said it best in 1992, it's the economy, stupid. So in 1840, the economy's not doing so well. There's a panic in 1837, right after Martin Van Buren got elected, and there's tons of blame to go around, but there were some policies that the Democrats held fast to that a lot of people blamed for that economic recession. One of them was their focus on hard money. You had to have gold or silver to buy land out west, and not having the availability of using paper money and loans is really going to slow Western development. There's also a lot of British investment in the West in the late 1820s and early 1830s. The Baring Brothers, an investment firm, had poured a lot of money into Western expansion. They're low on reserves by 1836, though they're going to raise the interest rates. There's also the Deposit and Distribution Act of 1836, which now that the National Bank is dismantled, they're going to distribute those funds around the country, and a lot of the money that was located in the eastern sector now is not in the eastern sector, so those big banks on the East Coast first aren't going to have money to loan out. So there's a lot of reasons the Democrats are going to blame the National Bank and bad investments and speculations. But at the end of the day, Martin Van Buren's sitting in the throne and the economy is doing horribly, and he's going to get the blame for that. But at the other end of that is really the campaign of Tippecanoe and Tyler, too. That actually originates from a campaign song. We had campaign songs before, but really campaigning really takes off in 1840. Tip and Tie was the song.
Sure, let 'em talk about hard cider, 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 and log cabins too. 'Twill only help to speed the ball for Tippecanoe and Tyler too, for Tippecanoe and Tyler too, and with 'em we'll beat little Van is a used-up man.
But at the end of the day, this image that they're portraying of William Henry Harrison as really a common man, a frontiersman. He was the governor of the Northwest Territory. He fought for the country. He's a public servant. He's one of you. That's the campaign that's going to win. And they used political cartoons. They used music, like we said, and they really tried to avoid the issues because they thought that that would confuse people and it was better to go with more of a personality-driven campaign. In terms of the Democratic strategy, they're really going to try to focus on William Henry Harrison's age. The dude's 68, which in 1840 is being like 413. Now, he's going to be the oldest person to ascend to the presidency, and in fact, run for the presidency up to 1980 when Ronald Reagan breaks that record. So they would call him Granny. They tried to make fun of him. They would say that he was an unsafe bet to be president of the United States, and of course, they're right. The dude's going to die 32 days after Inauguration Day. Popular legend says that he didn't want to wear a coat. He wanted to look gangster. He got a cold and he died. But I've read that it was probably the poop germs from the septic system in the White House. Ew. And then we're going to get John Tyler. But what's weird is John Tyler, who's going to ascend to the presidency after some constitutional crisisness, because really the 12th Amendment didn't use language that made it very clear that they would be the real president. There was a debate about whether John Tyler was the presiding president or the acting president. They're eventually going to put him in as the guy, and that's going to be unwritten constitution until the 25th Amendment. But John Tyler is more of a Democrat states' right kind of guy than a Whig. And remember, the Whigs, their platform is infrastructure spending, a national bank, really having a strong central government. So John Tyler's really going to get in the way of the Whigs. And again, what's ironic, Alanis Morissette maybe, is going to be that the only other Whig is Zachary Taylor that ascends to the presidency. He's going to die after a year. He's going to be replaced by Millard Fillmore, another kind of not real Whig. So at the end of the day, it's going to be a catastrophe for the Whigs. But he is going to win this election. Let's take a look at that electoral map because I know we're so interested to see where the votes were trumped up. So it's a crushing. It's 234 electoral votes for William Henry Harrison. Martin Van Buren only chalked up 60 electoral votes, kind of spread around the map. He's going to win Illinois, Virginia. He's going to win Arkansas. He's going to win Missouri. But he's only picking up 7 states where 19 states are going for William Henry Harrison. In terms of the popular vote, about 53% for William Henry Harrison. Martin Van Buren's going to chalk up about 47% of the electoral vote. One more interesting fact about this election, I promise I'm going to leave you alone. Everyone who got electoral votes was or is going to be president. It's the only time it's happened in American history. Of course, Martin Van Buren and William Henry Harrison, John Tyler, who quickly is going to ascend to the presidency and create a constitutional crisis, and Zachary Taylor got an electoral vote in that election as well. And like I said, he's going to be back, I believe, in 1848. So that's our campaign. That's our election. Congratulations to the Whigs. It's going to be short-lived. We hope that you enjoy it. And we hope that you enjoyed this lecture. If you want to check out all of the other elections that we've done, you can go down in the playlist and check that out. And if you haven't subscribed to Hughes History, I'm putting a voodoo spell on you right now to compel you to go to the channel and hit subscribe. All right, guys, I always say it after every lecture because it's always true. So if you don't remember anything, remember this. Where attention goes, energy flows. We'll see you guys next time that you press my buttons.